Hi, everyone. Thank you, everyone, for joining in and welcome to Journey of the Woman. This Zoom session has evolved out of some new direction that a large number of my sessions have taken in the last quite a few months. And I've been guided with the considerable number of women over several sessions to do deep womb healing, healing of their womanhood. Some of them have had issues which they've come to me, like not being able to conceive, or they conceive but they miscarry quite often. Some have issues about fear about sex. Some have mother issues, some have self-esteem issues. So the issues that they come to me for are not common, but it's almost as though session after session with different women, the focus is coming to the womb area, particularly the womb area. And I'm not talking only of the sacral chakra, I'm talking of the womb area. And yes, it starts from this life situation where there is something to do with their mother or mother-in-law or sister, or themselves as daughters and wives. It goes into shame, it goes into guilt. But what surprised me when it started is that for all of these women, and these are separate sessions, these are personal sessions, this is not group therapy like I do sometimes. What is happening is that after those initial sessions, which pertain to the personal, it's going into very deep levels of literally what I can call ancestral healing. It's going into healing of the woman energy as a whole. And it's going way beyond just the personal, it's going into the healing of the woman energy. And when I saw this happening, and I realized that JadeFire is very gently taking my work in that direction while keeping all the other work still alive, I realized that something here is taking place which I need to pay attention to. And I started creating a little bit of a personal diary. No mention of any personal names or situations or events, but just my observations through the session and what I was receiving, and certain triggers for me as well. Over the months, I've been reading and rereading those journal entries. And I came to this conclusion that a certain cosmic event, a certain cosmic movement, a certain cosmic transformation is taking place. And I'm honored to be a part of it, and I'm honored to be one through whom the transformation is being taking place. And I desired to share what I have received with a large number of women. because it's important that women support women. I also made a lot of journal entries about various triggers for me as a woman. And I've done a lot of deep soul searching in that area. And I realized that this cosmic movement is about us as women very substantially taking on our cosmic role. And that was one of the important things that came up during so many of my sessions, that there is a cosmic role. And I'm not talking about our soul missions and our soul purposes, which I share with you when I am creating your soul blueprint report. No, it's not about that at all. It's a cosmic purpose of woman as a whole, of the cosmic purpose of womanhood. And I realize our time has come. The time for this cosmic role, this cosmic awakening of womanhood is here, is now. And that over the last 3-4 years, the kind of work we've been doing, and so many women writers and poets and artists have been talking about women's empowerment, and women's activists have come to the fore. And I realized why that pre-foundation was being laid. It was actually being laid so that the brain, the intellect of the woman awakens to, I am not just XYZ, I am something. And yet, the cosmic purpose has not been touched, because the time for the cosmic awakening is now. So before we start any further, I want to ask you a question which I ask all my clients who are doing this work with me. They're doing specifically womb transformation work with me. And I ask myself that I want to know from you, and if you could type your answers in, I want to know from you, what according to you is a woman? So you can type your answers in. Let's all share this. What according to you is a woman? Embodiment of love, a strong being able to contain male and female, a nurturer, Shakti, divine giver, creator, power, compassion, love and strength, creativity, caretaker, life, creator, powerful, love, stability, divine energy of this and that, all encompassing, caring, responsible, manages so many balls in the air, a pure being, protection, again, love, security, the yin aspect of the divine. Yes, Maruk, curious, wanting the answers, strength and Shakti. Okay, we can stop here. None of these answers surprise me, because many of these are the same answers that my clients give me. And to be very honest, many of these answers are what I wrote in my journal when I started going through this process. I'm still going through this process, I need to tell you. So what I'm sharing with you is just the awareness I've received up to now. I'm sure in the months to come, this awareness will increase. And if at that time I'm guided to share with you, I shall hold another session. So all of your answers were all what I got. I also got answers of she's the female sex, and I got answers that, she's a mother. Like you said, she's a caregiver. Um, she's a daughter. She's the holder of everything. She stabilizes. Some people said she's a goddess. And I sat with all of these aspects of womanhood um, with JadeFire. And I said, are all of this woman? Is one of this woman? Are some of this woman? And I see his absolutely beautiful, gentle face beaming with a smile and shaking his head and saying, no, none of these answers. And I said, no, none of these answers, not goddess, feminine energy, yang, Shakti, love. And he does this. So I said, what for you is the answer? And by now, after all the Awaken series, I am aware that JadeFire is thrilled when he turns things on his head and surprises me. So I knew I was in for some answer that I didn't expect at all. And very gently, he makes me write. My hand takes up a pen and he makes me write 4 words. I am a person. I looked at that and I said, what? I am a person? Of course I am a person. I mean, why is that such a great answer? I mean, there's no cosmic truth in this. I am a person. And then he said, read through everything that you have written. Goddess, love, nurturer, caregiver, caretaker, security, power, creator, mother. Where in this definition have you written, I am a person? And suddenly it made sense to me. None of us think of woman as a person at all. We think of certain aspects of womanhood. Creativity is an aspect. The goddess energy is an aspect. Love is an aspect. Nurturance is an aspect. Security is an aspect. And JadeFire says, but that's not who she is. It is an aspect of her. It's like us telling yourself, who is Ellaeenah? Ellaeenah is her nose. Ellaeenah is her voice. Ellaeenah is her hair. Is that Ellaeenah? Or are these parts of Ellaeenah? Ellaeenah's intellect, Ellaeenah's skill in the kitchen. Is this Ellaeenah? Or are these parts of Ellaeenah? And I completely saw that these 4 very simple words that he had written made me write, I am a person, were exactly what we have been missing. And that is why even today, the woman is still fighting for her rights, is still fighting for recognition, is still fighting to be heard, is still fighting for safety, is still fighting for equality. Because my beloved friends, you and I, when we are asked to, when someone asks us a definition, we focus on the aspects. And JadeFire says we focus on those aspects that we most want to develop in ourselves. So if it's nurturance, it's an aspect that you wish to make strong in yourself. If you say love, it's an aspect that you wish to make strong in yourself. If it is power, it's an aspect that you wish to make strong in yourself. Yes, Madhu, if you could write your question or sharing or something on the chat, I will read it. I'm constantly reading the chat. We do not say who is a woman. A woman is a person. If we did, there would be no distinction here in ourselves between us and men, because we are all persons. And we give this simple and yet filled with depth, very significant word of person to a man. But we don't talk about a person when we say woman. We only refer to her separate aspects. We do not see her as a whole person. And JadeFire says, what is this? What is this distraction that seems to have consumed the human world over the last 4 years? This distraction. He called it a distraction. And he says, what is this distraction of calling woman a goddess? Why are you placing such a huge burden upon yourself? He says, when you call yourself a goddess, when you call another woman a goddess, you steal from yourself, you steal from her the right to be a person. You steal from her the right to feel hurt, the right to become angry, the right to criticize sometimes, the right to discipline her children, the right to say, I'm not cooking today. You take away from her the right to be a person. And he says, let's look at the other aspects. This love and creation and nurturance and responsibility. And he said, aren't these all aspects of being a person? Are you love because you are woman, but man is not? Are you nurturance because you are woman and man is not? Are you security because you are woman and man is not? And he says, when you look at different aspects, instead of looking at a woman just as a person, a whole, complete, indivisible person, you place that gulf between you and the other. And then you want to prove something. You want to prove that woman is love. You want to prove that woman is responsible. You want to prove that woman is stable. And in trying to prove all of this, not only do you put a burden upon yourself, but the chasm you put between you and the men often results in events that are unpleasant, that are cruel, that are sometimes bestial, that are harsh. I really did not expect JF to give me this answer, but it made perfect sense to me when he did. He says, you are not a chromosome, you are not a body, you are not a gender, you are not a role. And he says, you are certainly not a goddess. So the first thing we have to do is to look at ourselves as who we are. The simple but entire truth. I am a person. And when we acknowledge I am a person, then we will give ourselves, and I want you to hear the next part of this. We give ourselves the permission to be a person. You see, as we live our lives, we give ourselves permission to be mother and child and sister and wife and friend and teacher. And we get lost in our roles. Because once again, just as we are defining woman as these aspects, emotional aspects and energy aspects, we continue to define woman by the roles she plays. But those are roles. Woman is not mother. Woman is not the cook. Woman is not the teacher. Woman is not wife. It is a role she is playing. The wife role is being played by a person who chooses to play that role. The mother is a role being played by a person who chooses to play that role. And because we do not look at ourselves as a person, when we fight for equality, when we fight for freedom, when we fight for empowerment, when we fight for justice, how can we ever attain this? We don't even acknowledge. At a very deep level, we do not acknowledge I am a person. And you will say, of course, Elle, we do. And I'm going to ask you this question. If you do, there are 64 people on this chat right now and increasing all the time. Not one of you said person. Not one. So is it really true that we do acknowledge that? Every one of you did what I did. You honestly put down what you truly believe about women. And that is the first transformation. You and I have to stop burdening ourselves with these roles. We have to stop burdening ourselves with these crazy loads that we carry. A woman is love. As soon as I say that, every single time I am angry, every single time I am judgmental, every single time I am critical, I am guilty. And I live under the burden of shame. Every time a woman says, or I say, or anyone says, woman is nurturance, there are women, many, many, many women. In the last 10 years, I have seen a very clear shift in this. In the last 10 years, the younger women who are coming to me for sessions are consistently, not all of them, but it's a consistent choice that a large number of young women are making, not to mother a child, not to be married, The first few times I heard it, these conditioned woman responses came up in me as well. And now when I look at these young women, they have the courage to say, no, I don't want children. It's a choice I am making. I don't want to be married. I'd very happily live with a man who loves me, who respects me, but I don't necessarily want to be married to him. So you see, when we continually put these responses, I am a mother, I am a nurturer, even though these are empowered women who are making these choices, what happens is somewhere a soft voice in them is asking, does this mean that I'm a bad person? Does this mean that I'm a bad woman? What's wrong with me that I don't want to have children? Shame, guilt. Way before colonialism overtook the world, and I'm looking at 700, 800 years ago, we're looking at a time when technology had not come in, science in the way we know it today had not progressed, discoveries and inventions hadn't been made, and definitely European colonialism had not spread its fangs everywhere. And colonialism has a lot to do with how we are conditioned. And we are going to take that aspect. It was not an aspect I knew. It was something that I finally read about because I started doing a lot of research on the historical evolution of women, actual essays, nothing to do with spirituality. And one of the essays said that before colonialism, when the tribes flourished everywhere in the world, the women were the medicine women of the tribe. The women were the oracles of the tribe. The women's were princesses. The women's were monarchs. The women's were the queens of the tribe. The men served the women, as when the monarch was the queen, the men served her. The women were, the collective protective force for the children of the tribe. The women were, of course, the homemakers of the tribe. And the men played their roles as hunters and providers of food. They also played their roles as the protectors, right? Because they made little stone and stone implements and things like that to ensure that they keep wild animals out. It was never about man versus man. It was to keep wild animals out. And man played his role in all authenticity, knowing that women just intuitively knew about plants. And they would know that this leaf, when crushed with that leaf, would stop loose motions or would bring down a fever. And they were not threatened by that. So the women were all medicine women. There were no medicine men at that time. They were the shamans. The earliest shamans were all women. And they were the oracles. And this was an interesting one. There were certain tribes with one significant oracle, but many tribes had a large number of women who were all oracles. And do you know how this happened? In times when there was no light, there were no machines, and man lived his life by the light of the sun and the light of the moon. And when I say man, I'm talking of humanity, not the gender. They lived their lives by the light of the sun, light of the moon. And they were so in sync with nature that their menstruation cycles would align perfectly with the moon. And every 28 days, the women would all bleed together with the waning of the moon. And when they were all bleeding together, they would leave their homes. You see how we have perverted certain customs because we didn't know where they came from and we never bothered to find out. They left their homes, they left their village, and they would go a little away from the village, all the women together, because they didn't want to in any way stop the bleeding process. They wanted it to be complete. They recognized that as the moon was waning, their bodies were also releasing. And that when the moon started again, their bodies would rejuvenate and come into a state of creation again. So they allowed themselves to go through this whole process of bleeding without feeling ashamed. And they left, and all the children and the men were kept behind in the village for those few days. But they did one more thing. The women of the tribe would gather together as they were bleeding, and they would talk about what each of them had gone through in this 28-day cycle. Their feelings, their emotions, their hurts, their wounds, their anxieties, their stresses, their fears. They would share that with each other. And they would release that emotion as they bled. And when they had released those emotions, by the light of the moon, they would receive inspiration and guidance from the goddess Luna. And Luna would talk to the women. And the women were called oracles. You see, it was not one woman who was spoken to. There was no one Ellaeenah who received some message from JadeFire. It's sad that it has come down to this. The women were spoken to by Luna. And when they returned to the tribe, they returned to the village. They would inform the men that in the next 28 days, these are the changes that we shall face, or there might be some flooding, there might be a fire. We are being asked to take care of this. We are being asked to do this. We are being asked to have these leaves. And the women would come as, thank you, Sherry, for that. Thank you. And the women would come back to the village sharing this information, and that's why they were called the oracles. They never called themselves goddesses. Never. But the men began to see that the women have an inherent power. It's something that they have. And they also realized that this power in some way is very, very strongly combined with their menstrual cycle. And then came colonialism. And man began to feel threatened because he began to see that the woman is able to just know things in the next 28 days when she has her menstrual cycle. And therefore started a very subtle, a very slow, but a thorough process of this menstrual shame. If woman is made to feel ashamed of her bleeding, she loses her power. So what do? We tell them to stay separate. Don't touch these things. You are impure. You can't enter a temple. You can't go into the kitchen. Sleep on a wooden platform. When you do this, you strip the woman of her esteem and her worth. You tell her you are dirty. You can't take part in a religious ritual. You can't take part in customs. You're dirty. You're impure. The divine aspect of Luna communing with women when they are menstruating has been completely decimated. And colonialism spread, and the Europeans slowly, one by one, in every continent, were able to decimate the culture, the heritage, the wisdom, the power of the tribes. But colonialism did one more thing. It convinced the men of the tribe that the men are more powerful than the women, that the women are dirty, that the women must be subjugated, that the women must be kept under their thumb. And colonialism has a huge karmic debt to pay. Europe and then America have a huge karmic debt to pay humanity. And then they did the last thing in order to decimate the woman's power. Because you see, she was still able to communicate. Even though very often she chose not to say things, she was still able to connect. So they put a stake through her heart and burnt her and said, now do you dare to communicate? Do you dare to communicate? And I remember many, many years ago when I was doing a lot of work on myself. And throughout my work, I've had a lot of spontaneous regressions, and those are the only regressions I believe in. I don't believe in going to a regressionist because you might open a door or a portal that you may not be able to deal with. And so I never encourage people to do that. But when you are working on yourself, spontaneous regressions will come. Your own inner being will throw up information that you need to resolve. And I saw myself in a very, very dark place. It could have been a very dark church, I'm not sure. And there were these people, I don't know men, I don't know women, people, black cloaked, and I am on the floor. And I just know that I'm terrified and that very soon I'm going to be killed because I dared to show that I was a messenger of the light. And that memory was so strong with me that I remember the very first time I went for any kind of a reading, and it was not even for me, it was for my sister. And then ironically, it was turned on its head and it became all about me when I didn't want that. The first thing that the universe said is, you have to start this again. You have been resisting this for so long. You must start it again. You have been a messenger of the light for long, and you've resisted starting again. And I understood why I resisted starting again years later. To have been killed in a horrendous way for doing what your soul urged you to do is a trauma that the womb does not forget. And that's not what you want to do again. And in doing this time and time again, what man did was, and guys, this is not about man bashing. I love men. I think they are amazing human beings. I mean, some of the best people in my life, some of the greatest friends, some of my greatest support systems are men. And I love them. So this is not about male bashing at all. I can't bear male bashing. I really can't bear male bashing. But what man did in his ignorance, because he was scared of the woman, he took away from her choice. You know, guys, when you take away from anyone their choice, you make them your puppet. Then whether that person is your domestic staff or your child or your spouse or a student in a school, if you take away their choice, you depersonalize them. They are not persons anymore. They are tools that have to behave in a way I tell you to behave. When they took away the choice of the woman stopped considering herself, stopped defining herself as a person. She didn't have a choice to think. She didn't have a choice to disagree. She didn't have a choice to speak. She didn't have a choice to voice her truth. Whether the truth was some kind of divine communication, whether the truth was an emotional wound, whether the truth was a thought or a belief, she was stripped of choice. And then they completed this process. But you know, they didn't complete it. The whole depersonalization of the woman was not completed by men. They laid the foundation. They laid that strong. They laid all the steps after the foundation, but they were unable to complete the process. Do you know why? Because women completed it for them. We completed our process of depersonalization for them. They would never have been able to complete it had we stood our ground. And how did we complete it? And how are we still continuing to complete it, guys? How are we still continuing to complete it? Women have become enablers. And I'm not even talking of those extreme cases where a woman will put down a woman. Oh no, I'm glad to say those are few and far between. Most women are supportive of each other. I'm not even talking of those situations. Oh no, I'm talking about situations that blew my mind when I realized, oh my God, I have been an enabler all my life. And how have you and I been an enabler? We tell our daughters-in-law, our granddaughters, you can't wear this, you shouldn't wear that. Walk like a woman. Don't be loud and strident. Don't use this language. This is a man's language. Do you know, even in an army home, where over forefathers have been in the army, it's just assumed that the son will go into the army, never the daughter. Even though today Most armies of the world allow women to be soldiers. It's never expected. The woman will say, I want to be in the army. The parents will say, shit, abhi शादी का time hai. Teacher ban ja. I remember once telling a CEO client of mine, the men who come to me are most often just CEOs of different industries. And he was quite upset that his son had decided to leave India and go off to Europe and set up a business for himself there. And he tells me, looks at me and he says, Elle, what is the point of my continuing my business? He's gone. He's saying, I'm never going to come back. I'm not taking over this business. I'm not interested in your business, right? He wants to do something in fashion. He's gone off to Europe. He says, why am I here? Why am I now? I think I should just, wind up. And here is a man who's about 65, 70, many worthwhile years ahead of him saying, I think I should just wind up. And I looked at him and I said, Mohan, don't you have 2 children? So he looks at me and says, yeah, Elle, but that's my daughter. And I said, Mohan, hear yourself again. Hear yourself. What do you mean by that's my daughter? Arey, Elle, I'm not putting her down. You know I'm not like that. But now she belongs to another family. He couldn't see. He couldn't see what he was saying. She belongs to another family. And so she cannot take over this family business. And this is how we become enablers. We don't even realize. We don't even realize. We are ashamed of not only our bodies, but we are ashamed of other women's bodies as well. And I'm going to confess something. When my daughter was about 13, 14 years old, we were all at the Breach Candy Club, of which we are all members. And I saw a lady, she seemed East European, I'm not very sure. Very, very big, very buxom, and definitely on the other side of 65. And there was a lot of rolls and fat, and she was aging. I can see my aging body now getting loose. And I looked at that, and she was wearing a bikini. And I looked, and under my breath, I said, dear Lord, why would you do this to yourself? My daughter heard that, so I probably wasn't as soft as I thought I was. And she looks at me and she says, Mom, you have a problem with your body. She doesn't. My God, it was like a slap in the face received from my 14-year-old daughter. And I absolutely realized what I had done and what I was thinking. But guys, we may not say it, but this is how we think. And we enable it every day. We enable it every day. There is this thing I read, which I have written down in my journal, so I've copied it here for my notes. Simone de Beauvoir, a French philosopher, in 1949, as way back as 1949, wrote this one line: one is not born, but rather one becomes a woman. Do you understand what she is saying? Today's definition of a woman as the Oh, I hate this in Hindi sentence which says "Ghar ki murgi dar barabar." Oh, I just want to slap people. What do you mean by "Ghar ki murgi"? Right? I just want to slap anyone who says this. Yeah. But when we look at the word woman, we are defining the roles, we are defining the gender, we are defining the aspects like you and I did at the very beginning of this session. We are not born women, we are born a person. But we become a woman. And how do we become a woman? We become a woman by society telling us what a woman is. We become a woman by social pressures. I remember when I was head of discipline in my school, a first standard teacher brought this lovable little pochu little girl to me and says, "You need to talk to her, miss." I said, "What happened?" First standard kid doesn't generally come to me. Only these tall hulks in the 9th and 10th come into my office for discipline. She lowers her voice, although we were in my personal office, as though someone is going to hear this. She lowers her voice to her whisper and she says, "Miss." She pulled down her panty and was showing her private parts to a boy. And I just looked at her and I said, "So?" She says, "Miss, private part." As though I didn't understand that she had to point. I said, "Yes." "So?" She's 6 years old. She's curious. The boy is curious. We have to teach them. Gently, this could have been such a lovely opportunity to explain good touch, bad touch. I sent the little one away and I made her sit down and I said, "Do you know what you have done to this child? For the rest of her life, she is going to think of her private part as something dirty. She's going to think of sex as something horrible and impure. Do you have any idea what you have done to this child?" And not only that, but you brought her up to the head of discipline. Every child who walked into my office as head of discipline knew they were coming there for a punishment. You brought her to my office. What did you want me to do or say? What have you done to this child? I said, "I will not do anything. You go and rectify your mistake." We are enablers. We are enablers as mothers. We are enablers as teachers. We are enablers as sisters. We are enablers as friends. We are enablers. We are constantly, every day of our lives. It's interesting. On the one hand, we will speak of goddess and women's rights and equality and women should get this salary. And then we come home and we'll ask the husband, "Aapko kya khana chahiye aaj? Main kya pakaun?" You've come after a 12-day work. You're tired as hell. He can't go in and make himself a cup of tea and 2 toasts. "Aapko kya chahiye? Main kya pakaun?" What happened to the goddess? What happened to that equality and this and that? What happened? And then she goes into her daughter's room and looks at the daughter and says, "ये क्या पहन रखा है? और ये पहन के तू जूम के ऊपर है? ये सब दिख रहा है, बराबर पहन ले." What happened? What happened to that goddess? Where did she disappear? Is that only for Facebook posts? Is that only for bhashans? Is that only for blogs? Where did she disappear? She doesn't disappear. She lives within us at every moment, guys. And you know, ever since I've started on this journey, I am so aware of this in me. My son leaves in the next 2 months. And we were thinking one of us would go. And you know what I told my husband? You go. So he said, but why can't you go? No, 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 no. All this bank and all these other things, honey, I don't know whether I can do all that. I don't trust myself. Why can't I do that? I'm an exceedingly intelligent person. My IQ is very high. I'm aware of that. I'm proud of that. But when push comes to shove, what do I do? No, no, you go. I'm not going. We put ourselves down and we put down other women, and we make our daughters grow up believing that they have to follow a role, that they have to be a certain way, they have to dress a certain way, they have to talk a certain way. I still remember when my daughter was young, and I was a tomboy, so I'm surprised I did that to my daughter, who was also a tomboy. I was an absolute tomboy. I mean, I didn't wear skirts or dresses till I don't know how old I was, maybe almost 25, 27. I never wore, I only wore shorts and pants and jeans. I remember telling my daughter, when she must have been 8 or 9, see how you're walking. Is this how a woman walks? Walk like a proper girl. And all these memories have started coming back as I've been having these conversations with JadeFire. You know, these last few months in so many ways have just been emotionally tumultuous, but so freeing. And this is why I'm sharing. We all have done this, but isn't it time that we all stopped? But in order to stop, we have to become aware of it first. And you know, when I started this, I would say, oh my God, I've done this. I'm so ashamed I said this. And JadeFire would say, the woman's shame is still your burden. And we come to that. As we were indoctrinated to take on these roles of mother and sister, and then later on as, you know, going out and also earning a second income, somewhere in all these hats, like Zenobia wrote here on chat, due to all these hats that we wore, we sacrificed the identity of being a person. And we took on all these multiple identities that society told us. Remember, a society that after colonialism, rather since the beginning of colonialism, a society that has been ruled by men. In earlier times, when the men went to fight, they had their implements and whatever, they didn't believe that this strength made them superior, because they saw the divine strength in the woman. And remember, they were tribes, man or woman, they were very, very connected to divine source. Unfortunately, science and technology has taken us so far away from that. But with colonialism, the men went to war to invade lands, to make lands their own, to kill the tribes. And those that they couldn't kill, they indoctrinated and made them believe in their misbeliefs. And they knew that if they would change the beliefs of the tribes, they would have them as their puppets. And so, since colonialism, it has become a man-driven world. And society, a man-driven society, what comes to me is feminists choose not to marry. Are they scared to know that they too are conditioned? Yes, absolutely right, Mick. Feminists are most scared of themselves because they know deep down within lies the woman they are battling. They are trying to battle the men, but deep down they think like them, they believe like them, and they are not fighting the system, they are fighting themselves. And these roles that we took on from this man-driven society. And JadeFire has made me write one sentence. The woman has sacrificed her me identity to preserve all her other identities. She wants to preserve the identity of mother. She wants to preserve the identity of a good wife. She wants to present the identity of a good teacher. She preserves all of these, and she takes so much stress in doing that. But she loses in that her me identity. She's forgotten that she is a person. And JadeFire writes, if there is one thing I want you to convey to those who shall attend today, is to tell them this. Please do not erase the legitimacy of your me identity. Do not erase the legitimacy of your me identity. But the important thing is, do we know that me identity anymore? Do we know that me identity anymore? And that is what I have found in the course of my personal sessions with the clients. We are coming closer and closer to their me identity. And it's not something that I can tell them, because my me identity is entirely different from yours. They are discovering it for themselves, because with every session, we are removing one layer of gunk. So we come to this cosmic role of the woman. And JadeFire says, till the woman becomes a person, till she continues to believe and think and act and speak and sleep and breathe as a person, not as a goddess, not as a female, not as her role, as a person. Till she is able to do this, the cosmic role cannot be fulfilled. And where does this cosmic role lie? And JadeFire says, that's not even a question you should ask, you should know. Because there is no woman in the world who has no womb. And he says, why do you think the woman has a womb but the man does not? No, it doesn't. It's not because the man is not love-filled, the man is not nurturing. I had the most amazing, loving, nurturing husband who's a fabulous father. I had the most fabulously loving and nurturing father and father-in-law. So it's not about that. The presence or the absence of the womb does not define any of these emotional energy aspects that we so erroneously believe that a woman is. Do you know another thing? None of you mentioned here, which I mentioned because that's who I am. None of you mentioned woman is ambition. You didn't mention that. I did, because I'm very ambitious. I've always been. Where I train my ambition has shifted over the years, but I'm very ambitious. And I make things happened for myself, and I'm very proud of that. But none of you wrote that, because ambition is supposed to be male energy. My God, how can a woman be ambitious? If she is at the top role, she has lost all her femininity. And so, what is this cosmic womb? JadeFire says you don't have a womb, you have a cosmic womb. And I asked him, when he had explained this, I asked him, what about those women whose uterus have been removed for some reason, whatever? And he says that we are not talking about the uterus. We are not referring to the uterus. We are referring to the region of the womb. We are referring to the womb, not the uterus. I'm going to read this out so that I do not misinterpret anything that he said about this cosmic role of every woman, whether she's married or not, whether she's a mother or not, whether she's black, white, yellow, brown, green, gray. Every woman has the same cosmic womb. Every woman has the same cosmic purpose. The womb is where the physical energy meets cosmic energy. He says you connect upwards, and that's the last way to connect, because you can't connect. And I remember when I was doing my practitioner's course for Ho'oponopono, Dr. Hewlett mentioned this. He says to connect to higher sources, to connect to an upper, higher energy, you have to actually connect to your, he mentioned inner child. JadeFire says it's the womb where the physical energy meets the cosmic energy, the divine energy, the universal energy. The womb carries, please hear this, guys. The womb carries wisdom that has originated and continued to grow from the very first creator of human ancestry. So your womb and my womb consists and is aware of every single thing that has happened ever since man came on earth. Oh my God. So when some of us were told about ancestral clearing, I realized that the woman plays such a big role in this. We have to clear our wombs. We are the holders of ancestral legacies. We are the holders of ancestral legacies, the good, the bad, and the ugly. What do you and I choose? Are we still going to choose the conditioned aspects? Are we still going to enable the woman being put down? The woman being given a certain role, a certain way to dress, a certain way to talk, a certain way to be? It's interesting that India, which is so rich in the goddess energy, is the country where we look down upon a man who chooses to work at home and be a stay-at-home dad if the woman goes out to work. In the West, which is male-dominated just as we are, they have no such problems. If they have children and one of the spouses has to stay at home, the spouse who earns the lower salary stays at home. It doesn't mean whether it's male, female, or anything in between. Because we still work like that, we still think like that, we still function like that. Then he goes on to make a difference between the sacral chakra and the womb. And he tells me, he says, you too have made this mistake, beloved one. You have considered the sacral chakra to be the womb, and it is not. The region is the same. The sacral chakra exists in every single person, and I'm going to keep using this word person till you and I believe that we are a person. The sacral chakra exists in every single person, male or female. Why? The womb, now I'm reading out this. The womb has all energy of the cosmos. It has to, from time to time, send this energy to the sacral chakra so that the sacral chakra can help the human race to evolve by helping the person to ascend. I'm reading this again. I'm saying this again. The womb holds all knowledge of the cosmos, not only human ancestry. The womb holds all knowledge of the cosmos. Everything that there is to know of the cosmos is there in our womb. The womb, from time to time, sends a little of this knowledge to the sacral chakra, where it then becomes the human energy, because it's part of the human chakric system. It then becomes the human energy. And this energy helps humanity to evolve and the person to ascend. So man or woman, sacral chakra is present, but only the woman has the womb. And I repeat again, uterus or no uterus, married or not married, you're having sex or you're not having sex, you have children or you don't have children, none of these matter. And then JadeFire said something that was highly interesting. I mean, it just blew my mind. He says, with the awakening of the feminine force in the cosmos, a large number of human beings who are born male are realizing that they feel womanly. And many of these are choosing to dress like women. They're acknowledging that we feel like this. We call them, unfortunately, these horrible labels like transgender and all of this. Why can't we just say person for everyone? Why can't we just say person for everyone? Why must we have a label? And some of these men, JadeFire says, are choosing to go through sex change operations. He says, you will tell me that he is born a man, so he doesn't have a womb. And I'm telling you, he does. Because the womb is a sacred energy space. Because he does have a womb, he is not comfortable in the male body, because the male body doesn't have a womb. That is why they want to be who they really are, because they have a womb. The man who is comfortable in his male body doesn't have a womb. This blew my mind. Unless you and I now take on this responsibility, we have to turn our awareness and consciousness away from these stupid things that we still hold This is a man-related world and a man-directed world, and we have to fight these men and we have to resist them and we have to become feminists and we have to bring our goddess energy out and all that crap. You and I have to learn to be persons in our own right. What do I want? What do I desire? What do I choose to sacrifice? Which is fine. Every person has the right to make a sacrifice that they choose. What do I wish to speak? Do I wish to speak? What is the choice? I have to take my choices back in my hands and not allow anyone, another woman or another man, to tell me that my choice is right or wrong. It may be wrong, but I want to know, I want to experience that it is wrong so that then I can change that choice. I don't need you to tell me that my choice is right or wrong. I don't need your validation, and I don't need you to blame me. So unless you and I can be persons, my beloved, beloved women friends, unless you and I can be persons, today's most important job at hand is ancestral clearing. Friends, we are very close to 2024 and 25. It is the beginning of the new age. The planets are already aligned. Earth is already aligned. That movement will continue. We can't stop that now. We can't stop that. But we have one choice. What do we take into the new world? And my women friends, my beloved, beloved women persons, we will take in all this ancestral gunk if you and I do not awaken. If you and I do not awaken. If you and I do not awaken. We will take that with us because that exists in our wombs. There might be old people here on this Zoom who will say, well, I'm going now in the next 5 years. I won't be here. So why the hell should I do ancestral clearing? Because what you do not clear, woman has to clear. And are you not enabling by not doing your little bit? You may have 5 more days to live. Can you use those 5 days to do a little bit of ancestral clearing? Because what you don't do is what we take ahead with us into 2024 and 25. And boy, is that going to be a conflict because the energies are completely different. And here we will move in with these dense energies, and light comes into conflict. My God, there is going to be complete and utter chaos, complete and utter collapse. Today's meeting is for this. And I'm doing one more thing, which JadeFire has asked me. I'm going to have what he calls the 11-11 program. Every 11 days, we shall meet. Whether there is one person on the Zoom session, whether there are 50, I don't care. I will be here. JadeFire has asked me, given me permission to charge 500 rupees for that session. The session will be 1 hour and 11 minutes. Please do not even ask me why. There are certain questions now I don't ask him. 1 hour, 11 minutes every 11 days. It will be guided by him. We will hone into the energies of the collective, and we will clear what comes up for clearance at that time. And JadeFire has said half the session will be taken over by him, this is through me, and half the session is for sharing, where the women speak. The women have become silent. They are scared to share their truth. They are scared to say what they think. They are scared that they will be judged. They are scared that someone will go out and tell something to someone else. And that is a sacred promise we will all make. What we share on that group remains in that group forevermore. Whether you attend one session or you attend all, that's never shared. I don't know when I'll start it. JF will tell me when I have to start the 11-11 program. And I asked him, why are you saying 11-11? And he says, it's the master number of change, initiation, and the beginning of a new world. And only women will attend this program, no men. I'm going to give everyone a 2-minute break, because then we are going into the various archetypes which make us play these roles. You see, there are certain psychological compulsions that we all have within us, all. And I'm going to refer to my favorite psychologist, Jung. And I'm going to speak of a few of the Jungian archetypes and how they have ruled our lives and are still ruling our lives. But before we come to that, a 2-minute break. Before we proceed with the Jungian archetypes, there are two relationships that I would like to take up first, because they will help us to explain and understand the archetypes better. One is our relationship with our mother. And I'm talking, of course, of the woman and the mother. Even though every single soul, whether male or female, every single soul chooses the mother as the very first choice they make for a soul blueprint. We choose our mother first, right? We create our soul blueprint, and the first choice we make is the choice of the mother. I was saying, even though every soul makes a choice of the mother as the very first choice that they make after their soul blueprint plan has been laid, the relationship, the cosmic relationship between mother and daughter and father and son is very, very important. The daughter's triggers, I am generalizing, and there are a number of cases where I know this is not true. So I'm admitting this is a generalization. But in a large number of cases, in a very large number of cases, the woman's greatest triggers are given to her by her mother, the mother's genes. And the son's greatest triggers come from the father. Sometimes these triggers are very obvious triggers, like the mother actually saying something or doing something, or neglecting the child or the daughter, or being harsh to the daughter. Sometimes it's as obvious a trigger, but many times the trigger is not obvious at all. For example, the daughter may grow up with a certain mindset, a certain belief, which then constantly triggers her in life, brings her unpleasantness, brings her unhappiness, and on work on herself, she realizes that this mindset, this belief has come from the mother. So, in that sense, the mother has still been the trigger. And this is the same that is true for father and son. We are not going to deal with that right now. As children, as daughters growing up, many daughters have been triggered by their mothers, right? And the mother-daughter relationship is very often fraught with conflict, especially at the time when the girl is a teenager or a young adult. As mothers, we've got to give our daughters, and please hear me well, as mothers, we've got to give our daughters the permission to be angry with us, to resent us. Because we must be aware that we have taken, when we agreed with this soul that yes, I shall be your mother, we agreed to be their cosmic trigger. We agreed to be their emotional trigger. We agreed to be their psychological trigger. And so we've got to love our daughters even when they might appear to hate us. As daughters, and our relationship with our mothers, as we grow older, we have to appreciate that our mothers have done nothing except to play the role that we assigned to them. If you had a mother who was harsh and cruel, my beloved friend, your mother did nothing else but played that role that your soul blueprint assigned to her. If you had a mother who was kind and nurturing, then your mother played the role that your soul blueprint assigned to her. Our mothers play the roles, and very often we hate them for playing the roles that we've assigned to them. As daughters who are now becoming persons in their own right, who are now going to take on this divine responsibility of ancestral clearance of our wombs. As daughters, we have to learn to not forgive our mothers because they have done nothing wrong. We have to learn to release them from the soul contract. If you are still holding your mother in a soul contract, your mother shall continue to play that role, and she will continue to be your trigger. You have to figure out, what is this soul contract? What is the role that you assigned or have still assigned to your mother? Understand that role. Understand the role your mother has played. Why did you assign this role to her? What is she triggering within you? When that awareness is absolute and it's complete and it's entire and it's whole, you let your mother go. you free her, you liberate her from the soul contract. If she is alive, then you actually liberate her from the soul contract. And if you wish, you can ease contact me and I will tell you how to do this process of liberation. If your mother has passed on, then you have to enter into a gratitude exercise to be eternally grateful to your mother who played the role that she did when she was alive. Both these processes are very, very important. When we judge our mothers, it is because we are not considering her or ourselves as persons. We are judging her as a role. We are judging her for the words. We are judging her as an action. We are not judging her as a person. We are not even looking at her as a person. Why? Because we can't look at ourselves as people, as a person. We still consider ourselves as roles. So these two relationships, your relationship as a mother to your child and your relationship with your own mother, are extremely important. These two relationships can bring on huge burdens of shame, of guilt, of fear, and of anger. And we are going to discuss all of these in a short time. And we'll discuss these through the Jungian archetypes. The main women archetypes that Jung brought forward in his studies were the maiden, the mother, the huntress, the wise woman, the mystic, the lover, and the queen. Let's look at each archetype. If you don't know what an archetype means, just a brief explanation. An archetype is an energy that lies innately within a collective. Okay, if there is an energy that lies only within you, it cannot be called an archetype. It's an energy that is exclusive to you. Of course, we know by now that there is no energy exclusive to us. We are all a collective. So an archetype is an energy that lies within the collective. These are the Jungian women archetypes. So he's looking as woman as the collective. And he starts with the maiden, who is the young girl. She is happy. She is radiant. She is curious. She likes to make friends. She wants to be happy. She generally is happy. She likes to learn. She likes to experiment. She is joyous. She is fun-filled. And that is the positive ancestral legacy that we hold. And we don't want to clear that. But every archetype has a shadow. And the shadow of the maiden is the burden of being liked by everyone, the burden of being pleased. You want to please everyone. You want everyone to like you. You want everyone to approve of you. You want everyone to validate you. In doing that, you sacrifice yourself. I remember this movie where Julia Roberts was acting. I think it was called The Runaway Bride, where this bride keeps running away from every marriage. And I think she's run away from more than 6 or 8 marriages. She comes almost to the altar and then vanishes. And there is this journalist who's looking into this case. He finds this very interesting. And once he asks her a very simple question. What are the kind of eggs you like to eat? What is the egg preparation that you like? And she thinks. And she said, when I was with X, he liked fried eggs, and so I liked fried eggs. When I was with Y, he liked omelets, and so I liked omelets. When I was with Z, he liked poached eggs, and so I liked poached eggs. And in answering this, she realized she had lost her me identity. She didn't know what egg preparation she liked. She liked whatever the other liked because she wanted to be liked. She wanted to be approved. She wanted to be validated. She wanted to belong. At the end of the movie, when she finds herself, she seeks out the journalist and tells him, I now know that I like poached eggs. She found herself. And in this one simple question, what egg preparation do you like? So the maiden in us, and she's present in everyone, the maiden in us makes us sacrifice who we are. We try to behave in a way that people will approve of us. We've created an image and we want to live by that image. And we don't give ourselves the permission to change from that image. So often, my clients will tell me, I'm now 50, but I go back home to my maternal home, and it's like I become that teenager again, and I have the same conflict with my mother again. After doing so much work with you, when I'm with my mother, it's like I go back to that. Yes, because that maiden still exists and you've not cleared the maiden. Then we come to the mother. This is a beautiful archetype. It's not a role, it's an archetype. It's the energy of the feminine force that lies within us. The mother is the force of creation. She gives birth. She renews things. She is nature. She brings newness. She creates. And that's wonderful. And she not only creates, but she looks after that which she creates. It's like I will plant something in a new pot, and then each day I go and I tend to that pot and I'll remove the dead leaves and I'll see that the plant is doing well. And that's so natural of this mother archetype. And we don't want to remove this ancestral legacy, but we do want to remove the shadow. And what is that shadow? The mother begins to believe that her only role is to look after others. And she forgets to look after herself. She cooks and she cleans and she irons and she sits with the children for homework and she disciplines them, and she has no time for herself. And you see, her choice to speak has been taken away from her, like we discussed. And so she doesn't think that she should just tell the family, I want a day off. I find it really sad that we need to have a Mother's Day when someone cooks for the mother. I find it sad that for 364 days of the year, that's not even thought of. It's taken for granted. But why is it taken for granted? Because she takes it for granted. because deep in her womb lies this ancestral burden of shame and guilt. My God, how can I do something for myself? I could spend those 2 hours with my children. How can I go out with my friends? What will people say if I'm going out alone and I'm not going out with my husband? How can I say no to my children when they say, Mom, could you please do this for us? And I say, no, I can't, because right now is my me time. Shame and guilt, and shame and guilt, and shame and guilt. And the mother archetype becomes dependent on others because she loses awareness that she is the holder of cosmic wisdom. She believes that she doesn't know. Her children know, her husband knows, everyone knows everything. Like one lady, so sweetly, she told me when I asked her something, nothing personal. We were just talking about stuff, and she says, अभी एलेना मुझे क्या पता, मैं तो बस घर में ही हूँ. And I was so sad. Why would you think that you do not have the ability to learn something new? Because you have taken away from yourself the awareness of your intelligence and your wisdom. That is the ancestral legacy we have to clear. Then comes the huntress. The huntress is this woman of ambition and drive and purpose and goal and determination and resolution. And she's called the huntress because she goes after what she wants. She has a goal and she just aims at it and goes after it till she has it. That's the strength of the huntress. And we don't want to remove or clear this legacy. But the huntress is one of the most guilty and ashamed of all women. I have a lady who comes to me, who's my client. I won't give her name because some of you may recognize. She's very high up in her work, very high. She's struggling. And her children are all well settled abroad and doing very well. But she's struggling that over the years, she believes she has sacrificed her children because she wanted to be where she is today in her career as the head of this institution. She's happy, she's proud of what she has attained. But there is this darkness of guilt and such a darkness of shame because her mother-in-law had always made her believe you are just a horrible wife and mother because you're pursuing your career and your children and your husband are being given second place. And today, this highly successful woman is struggling to bring herself out of this shame and this guilt. And that's the huntress. On the one hand, she wants what she wants. She knows what she wants. She goes after what she wants. But she is burdened by the shame and the guilt that I actually went for what I want. Because I have been made to believe you have to sacrifice. You're a woman. You have to sacrifice. You're the sacrificial lamb. Your husband comes first, your children come first, your in-laws come first, your other family comes first. You don't come anywhere. How dare you pursue your career and become this? How dare you? Then comes the wise woman. Oh, I love this one. The wise woman archetype is the ancient oracle. She receives, she knows, she believes, she processes, and then she chooses whether to say it or to keep quiet. That is her strength. She knows, she receives. Do I need to speak right now? That's her choice. She is not keeping quiet because she's subjugated. We don't want to clear this strong, beautiful, wise woman archetype, but we want to clear its shadow. How can I speak? Arey, my husband runs this big organization. What do I know of running a business? But when you come to me, you are telling me that my intuition is telling me, he should not be in this partnership, that this partnership is wrong for him. And then when Elle tells you that that is right, she says, now I will tell my husband. She did not tell her husband her intuition till Elle's cards said the same thing. She went and told her husband, Ellaeenah has said this is not going to work. Well, why didn't you tell him? Now, where will I tell him? He'll say, what knowledge do you have? You think you know too much, you're now interfering in my business. She's the wise woman. There are other women who do not tell their children anything because the children turn around to her and say, what do you know of the world? You just stay in the house and you're cooking all day and you're trying to tell us anything about the world. And so she keeps quiet. But she knows. She doesn't know science. She doesn't know technology. She doesn't know math. But she knows, she is wise. She has wisdom. But she has suppressed herself because she has been oppressed by the outside. And she does not choose silence as a choice. She chooses it in defeat, in sadness. And that's the legacy we have to clear. Then we come to the lover, the woman who is sexual, sensual, likes to dress and show that she is beautiful, has no issues if her cleavage shows, is happy to wear strappy, strapless, mini. I don't care if my thighs are big and fat and flabby. This is how I dress. And I had a beautiful friend who I lost in December, who was this gorgeous lover, very sensual, very, I wouldn't call her sexual, but very sensual, and had such a beautiful relationship with her body. Even at 64, she didn't care. If you don't like the way I'm looking, that's your problem. This is how I love dressing. And that's the lover who loves the world, who does not judge the world because she loves herself. But even the lover has a shadow. And the lover becomes the scheming woman, the cunning woman who tries to entrap people, who manipulates, who uses her beauty in order to trap others. She knows how to trap people. She knows how to manipulate people, and she does that. And that's because she is pushing down and suppressing her sexuality and her sensuality. She's not allowing herself, to love her body. And there is another side, the shadow side of the lover. As we age, our bodies become different. I don't choose to say ugly or beautiful. They become different. The flesh begins to sag. The muscles get a little loose. We put on girth where we were very thin. And what do we do to ourselves then? Instead of loving our bodies as they are, in every change that they go through, we begin to hate our bodies, and we go on rigorous diets, and we go on exercise regimes that are killing. But you see, the body does not respond, because that is the body. The metabolism slows down, it changes, your body's needs are different, but you will continue to punish your body. I can't eat carbs, and I can't eat sugar, and I can't eat fat, and I can't eat this, and I can't do this, and I have to walk for 3 hours. You punish your body. You don't love it anymore. And when your daughter sees you punish your body, your daughter receives information. Fat is ugly. As you age, you're not going to look very good, so you better use all your wiles and all your talents in your young days. You're not going to look very nice. Old women don't look very good. You're giving so many unspoken messages to your daughter that you're not even aware of. That aspect of the lover we have to change. To say, this is who I am. Take me or leave me. I love me exactly as I am. And it's not about a man loving me. I don't need a man to love me. I need to love me. I need to love me. And then comes the queen. She's the monarch. She has been the maiden. She has been the mother. She has been the huntress. She has been the wise woman. She has been the lover. And now she's the queen. She has seen it all. And she is happy to rule because she has touched her cosmic womb. And she knows with every aspect of her consciousness, she knows, I rule. I rule. I am Shakti. She doesn't need to prove it anymore. The queen archetype will never be out on the roads fighting for equality and justice, because she knows that's who I am. All I have to do is live as that, and everyone will accept it. That's all I have to do. I have to live as that. I have to live as that, which means breathing, eating, talking, walking, sleeping. I have to live as Shakti. And then I emit that energy, and everyone looks at me and says, that's who you are. And then there's one more beautiful role that one more beautiful archetype, my error, that Jung talks of, and that is the mystic woman. And this mystic woman is this ancient oracle, and I want to talk about her a little more. She is this ancient oracle. JadeFire says, whereas men, because they don't have a cosmic womb, require to have a practice and a ritual and a process by which they can aid their connection with higher sources of energy, with energies that have more refined vibrations. No woman has to do that ever. No woman ever needs to go through a training or a ritual or a process. She just has to touch her cosmic womb. But you see, what stands in the way of touching her cosmic womb is the shadow of the queen. The shadow of the queen, from knowing that I know it all, that the cosmos lives within me, the shadow becomes controlling and my way or the highway. And you will do what I say because I'm your wife, and you will do what I say because I'm your mother. And that's the shadow. You don't know anything. I know it. Looking down on people. The shadow of the woman judges other women. And that is why the mystic cannot be reached. And the mystic is this cosmic womb. So you see, the cosmic womb, the mystic does not have a real shadow self. The mystic is either awake or asleep. The question here is, do you want to awaken the mystic? Are you just happy to read books? Are you just happy to listen to people? Or would you like to touch that place deep within yourself where the universe lies? You are a woman with a womb. You know everything. You know the entire history of human ancestry. You know what the cosmos is. You know what the cosmic plan is. You know what is going to unfold. Why are you so willing to listen instead of speak? Why are you so willing to read what someone else has written and believe that to be true? And sometimes when you don't believe it to be true, you are too scared to say, but this book didn't resonate with me. How can I say that? It's a huge world bestseller. Someone will think I'm stupid. And then JF talks about the actual womb region in detail. And he says the womb region can be visualized like a very, very dark cave. There is no light in this cave. It's black, pitch black. And he draws my attention to space where there is dark matter and there are black holes. And dark matter, I mean, I don't know much about dark matter, honestly, but I know that dark matter is actual matter in space that scientists are saying it is matter that does not reflect any light. It does not absorb light and it does not reflect light. About 85% of the cosmic energy is dark matter, but as a mass, it's about 25%. Scientists are still unaware of what is the purpose of dark matter. They just don't know what the purpose of dark matter is. So I asked JF, if you are comparing this dark cave of my womb to dark matter, to a black hole, I want you to explain to me why it's black. Why is it dark? Why isn't it glorious and golden and luminous? I mean, that's what I would expect, no? You said it's a cosmic womb. So why are you comparing it to this dark? As he says, it's pitch black. There is not a dot of light. Why? And JF once again gives me his most beautiful smile and says, light is only what you see. When you don't know what you're seeing, you call it black. When you know what you're seeing, you call it light. The dark matter exists because we haven't yet seen it. We don't know what we are seeing. And he says the womb of the woman is this dark cave that she is very scared to enter into. She cannot take in light with her. The only light that can be taken in with her is herself. She is the only source of light. She can carry no one else in with her. She can carry nothing else in with her. She can carry not even a prayer in with her. No words of prayer and no mantras can be carried into this dark cave. All you can carry with you is the light that is within. And if you are burdened by shame and guilt and rage and resentment and fear, your light is very, very dim. And you will be very scared to enter this cave. But if you can constantly remind yourself that in this human form you are a person, and that in the very body of this person, in the physical body of this person, lies a womb, a physical womb, which is the space, the place where human energy meets with divine energy. If you can be that person, you will be able to enter that dark cave. And I said, what do I do when we enter this dark cave? What do I do? He says, you transform. You are no more the mother, the wife, the daughter, the teacher. You are not love, you are not power, you are not strength. You are. That's it. You are. But in order to be you are, that ancestral clearing of the womb is the only way. The only way. So, of course, I asked him. I said, give me a meditation that I can share with people. And he said, wouldn't that just be easy? Yeah, it would. But it wouldn't clear the ancestral legacy. You and I have to enter that dark cave. And that's the 1111 program. We're going to enter that dark, dark cave. I don't know what lies in my dark cave, so I certainly don't know what lies in yours. But I know that I have been doing a lot of clearance work right now for the last few months on myself. And I know that some of these times have been very uncomfortable. Sometimes we feel lonely because we don't know. It's not about not speaking out of defeat, it's because we don't know what to say. The feelings and the experiences are just so strong. We cannot describe them. We can only speak of them to another woman who is going through them herself, so she understands without words. In the Dark Mother, JF says, lies the fear of death. JF says, although all human beings fear death, the woman fears death far stronger. But her fear is different. A man will fear death for himself, even though, of course, he fears death for his loved ones, but he will fear death for himself. A woman will not fear death for herself. She will fear it only for her loved ones. And because she fears the death of her loved ones, because she fears the loss, because she fears the separation, this fear, this terror lies in this dark cave of the womb. And it has come down to us generation from generation, and it has passed into us like ancestral legacy. I am not sure, I've forgotten the why, but I remember many, many, many years ago, my mum, who used to attend all my channelings, was put on this rather difficult exercise by JadeFire. And he said, for some several months, he had made her do this exercise. He said, do it daily. And my mother was so diligent. She was one of those race 7 type people. I mean, if she started on something, she would do it to completion. Not a day would be missed. And she was like that till the day she passed. He said, you have to visualize the death of both your daughters. You will visualize it very clearly. You will see their dead bodies. You will touch their dead bodies. You will feel the cold of their dead body. You will see that their dead body has no blood. Visualize it just through your whole Zoroastrian ritual, being bathed, wrapped, the prayers. You now have no daughter. You have no child. Visualize it. It was devastating for my mother for the first 15 days, 20 days. A most beautiful thing started happening after that. This mother who I had always seen in my growing up years as very weak, as very dependent, as very clingy, she took on a stature that was amazing to see. She became this warrior because she realized there is no death. There is no death. The body of these two girls I have called my daughters has gone. But does that make a difference? She grew into her strength. She lost fear of death. She knew there was no separation. She found her power. The dependency just vanished. She birthed herself as a woman. And maybe that was what JadeFire wanted. He wanted her to stop being that mother, because she was always the mother. Sacrificed everything she needed to because she had to be the mother. Maybe he wanted her to stop that and gave her this exercise. I don't know. I don't remember why he gave her this exercise. I just remember that it had the most amazing outcome. But I cannot tell you how cruel it seemed to her in the initial few days. It seemed cruel to her. But did she stop? No, she went on and on and on. And I'm so grateful she did for her, because she showed me what strength really is. She lived it. So in this cave, we shall find our deep fear of darkness, of death. We shall find our shame. We shall find our guilt. We shall find our rage. We shall find our defeat. Another thing we shall find is deep within our wombs, we all as women have one huge bitterness, which JadeFire says we have not forgiven. And JadeFire says it is time to forgive. What is this? The woman has over the years been demonized. Remember, I spoke of witch burning a little earlier. She has been demonized. She has been made to feel you're a demon. You are consorting with the devil. If you dare to show that you are connected, or you're a channel, or you're a medium, people are going to ensure that they write about you, that they even imprison you. And deep in this dark cave of every single woman lies this rage of being demonized, this wound of being burnt at the stake. Because may not be all, but almost every single one of us has been at some time been burnt at the stake. It's almost like it's a common memory for women. And you know, the stake was put through the heart. I am killing the very part of you that gives you life. I am taking life away from you. I have the power to take life away from you. We have to forgive. We don't know who to forgive, but we have to forgive humanity. Humanity that was ignorant, humanity that was scared, humanity that was filled with fear, because who are these people? How do they know things? How does a woman know? What the hell is this woman's intuition? How do they know? Who is telling them? Are they actually talking to the devil? Is that how they know? So humanity that was ignorant, was scared, felt the need to control, We have to forgive that humanity. And then we have to voluntarily choose to live. And I want to repeat these words. We have to live as the cosmic wisdom keeper. And we have to live as the medicine woman of consciousness. Oh my God, these two just went straight into my heart. Cosmic wisdom keeper and the medicine woman of consciousness. It devolves upon each one of us to heal the consciousness of humanity. Don't hesitate to talk. Speak to people. Tell them what you know. You are healing their consciousness. You are giving them the opportunity to expand their consciousness. Stop remaining silent. And at the same time, don't shout from the rooftops. Don't be strident. Because, that's when people look at women and say, women are just too, have you ever asked someone, a woman is too sensitive, too emotional, too talkative, too inquisitive. It's almost as though if you're describing a woman, you're always describing her as some extreme, as though she can never be centered and balanced. But that may be true, because there is no smoke without fire. So have we really, let's be honest with ourselves, have we acted in a way where people can maybe rightfully say that about women? You have to ask yourself, what are you too much about? And bring that into balance. What is not there at all? Bring that into balance. So, in this dark cave, shame, guilt, death, fear, all of these have to be looked at, dealt with, shared with, and then forgiven, so that we finally once again live the way we used to live hundreds upon hundreds upon hundreds of years ago. We used to live as the cosmic wisdom keepers and the medicine women of consciousness. Thank you, everyone. Thank you very, very much. We have a few minutes. If anyone wants to share anything, please. And your sharing will be removed from the taping and the recording. So if there is something you wish to share, I can assure you I will be removing that. I will edit it out. And of course, it's a sacred covenant that none will speak even a word of whatever has been said here. So if there's anything you wish to share here, this is a sacred space and it's safe.
Ella, I have a question, please.
And you can unmute yourselves and share and say whatever you want to.
Super, super. Okay, so you said the mother is the trigger for the daughters and
Yes.
the fathers for their sons. What happens?
As I said, it's a generalization.
Yes, I got that. What happens when it is an adopted daughter? Is it the biological mother who triggers, or is it the adoptive mother?
It would 101% first be the biological mother. The
If
very
the
aspect of adoption, the very aspect of being given up for adoption, Rukhsana, is the trigger.
So
Even
what happens when the biological mother is not even in touch, when the mother and the child don't even...
Doesn't make that, that's what I'm saying. It doesn't have to be. The child could have come to you, Rukhsana, when the child is 2 months old. And
Right.
all that the child knows is you as the mother. But please remember, the energies are aware that I have been given up for adoption.
Correct.
That itself is the trigger. So in that process of adoption, the biological mother becomes the trigger.
And the adoptive mother is never plays the trigger?
No. Of course, she herself would be, especially if especially if it's a daughter.
Yes, daughter I'm talking about.
Yes, that adoptive mother would also be a trigger, but the prime trigger is always the biological mother.
Even if the biological mother has died at childbirth?
Yes.
No, then it can't be. That can't be.
It is.
All right. Okay, one more
question. It is because the trigger, sweetheart, is loss, separation, death, neglect, whatever.
Abandonment.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, one more question, please.
Yeah.
What about the mother-son soul contract? You said there is a soul contract that the daughter will have.
Every child will have a contract with the mother, whether son or daughter. Every child. And of course, I can't talk of that because, Rukhsana, every contract between mother and son and mother and daughter, each equation is a personal contract.
I get that. But the mother will not be a trigger for the son, is what you're saying.
No, she could be, but she won't be the prime trigger. Almost always the father becomes the prime trigger.
Okay, sorry, but I have one more question. Can I?
Yes, absolutely. No, sorry.
Oh God, where did I write it? Okay, I'll come back to you because I've written it somewhere. I'll take it.
Sure.
Let somebody else know. Thank you so much.
Sure.
Payal this side.
Yeah, hi Payal, tell me.
Yeah, you stated that as daughters, we have to learn to release our mothers from the soul contract. So
if your mother is still alive.
Yeah. And so are we supposed to do this with our daughters as well because we are the mothers?
With your daughter, Payal, you are not in charge of the soul contract. Your daughter is.
Okay.
You have only agreed to the soul contract. So when you agree to the soul contract, you cannot release yourself from it.
Okay.
Your daughter has initiated the contract. If she wishes the contract to end, she has to initiate that. And it's not always that your contract, you have to release your mother by a process of that. I released my mother from the soul contract by understanding my contract, Payal.
Okay.
You see, so my mother had been given a certain role by me to play.
Right.
Which she played beautifully, right? She played it to the hilt. When I started a lot of work on myself, especially for my anger issues, why am I so angry? Where does the anger come from? You see, nothing in my life, Payal, in this current life, was even a small trigger that could have given me so much anger. By divine grace, I have lived a privileged, blessed life. So I should have had absolutely no anger. But I was seething with rage. And I went for therapy and spiritual counseling all at once to understand my anger. That's when I realized the role of my mother. I would never have realized that otherwise. Because, sometimes, as I said, most times the roles are very subtle.
Right.
They are not in your face roles, right? So when I realized that, and then I did a lot of deep work on myself, I understood why I had asked my mother's soul to be in that soul contract with me. I realized that it was for my growth. When I understood that, I had a talk with my mother. She cried, I cried, and it was like There was no anger left. There was nothing. Our relationship became the best relationship. And for over 3 decades, she was my
Mm-hmm.
warrior. She was my
Wow.
warrior. Yeah. So you see, I released her from the contract in this manner because I understood, and I told her I understood. I know why you played this role, because she was living in guilt.
Yeah,
So I was able to help her release her guilt. So you
I
see,
get that.
that's what we have to understand, that sometimes we blame our mothers, but they are living in guilt because they know what they've done. Just as you know what you've done to your child, there is a guilt and a shame attached in you.
Yes, yes. Many times
Yes.
she states that as
Yeah. Yeah.
well. Okay, I get it. Thank you. Thank
Elle, do we
Yeah.
have time for a question, please?
Absolutely.
So, in one of my healing sessions that I had done,
Hmm.
I had actually seen myself as a fetus in my mother's womb.
Yeah.
And I could see, because she had had several children, she was very tired, exhausted, and didn't want yet another child.
Hmm.
So, almost saw her as though she wanted to push me out of the womb.
Yeah.
What would this sort of a contract be? How can I heal this?
So you see here, the contract is this spontaneous regression that you had
Yeah,
made you aware that what you felt in your mother's womb was neglect and
yeah,
also complete rejection. The
totally.
fact that it came from her being tired, all of that, we can understand that now when we are women and taking care of our own children, right?
Right.
But as the child, as the baby, as the fetus, you are only filled with emotion. There is no understanding and logic. So you experienced in those 9 months, all you experienced was neglect and rejection. But now you understand that for what reason, which you will have to introspect, you will have to go within and see. You asked your mother,
Mhm.
please reject me in the womb.
Okay.
Reject me. Don't take care of me. I don't want to feel like I belong. I don't want to feel accepted. I don't want to feel loved. Now, why would you choose that? Are you stupid? No, you are a soul. So there is a cosmic purpose why you chose this. Now that you know that you have asked your mother to play this role, the first thing you do is to say thank you, because someone has played a role in your growth. You have to say thank you. If mother is still alive, you have to release her from the soul contract to say, I don't need this anymore. Thank
Mhm.
you. I'm aware now. I release you from the soul contract. You can please move and go your soul way, right? And your growth. I don't need you to play this role anymore. Thank you very much. And then you start resolving what lies in your cosmic womb, which brought you to this moment of contract. Why did you ask mother to play this role?
And if she has passed on, Elle?
Then you just say thank you, say I
Okay.
love you, I release you forevermore, but I'm in eternal gratitude to you for having done this for me. Because you
Thank
did this not to me, you did this for me.
Right, right. Thank you. Thank you so much.
What about surrogacy? This is a very interesting one, actually, Mayor. Um, you see, a lot of children who come into, now I didn't want to go into all that, but I asked these questions to JF because I was curious. A lot of these children who come through surrogacy, they come with one common, almost all of them come with one common uh, emotional history. They don't feel they belong anywhere. So there is this ancestral legacy of not belonging. You see, there is within our ancestral legacy, Mayor, what JadeFire has explained is there is no cosmic race called human beings.
Yeah.
Right? We are all star energies. We choose to have a cosmic journey, which is called human journey. But I am not really a human being because there is actually nothing called a human being.
Yeah.
Right? So there are many who take part in the human journey, but are still pulled towards their star origins and just don't fit in. So they have to overcome and they've got to learn to belong. Because if they can't belong, they won't finish their human journey. So surrogacy is a huge one.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just
So
want
many
to.
people are going in.
Can I speak?
Yeah, of course.
No, I just want to say that you said say what you want. I just want to speak on behalf of shrieking women.
Okay.
Okay. No, please. I just want to tell you that, the shrieking woman is generally the woman who has broken into a male domain. Okay. And she wants to be heard.
Yeah.
Like, when, like I'm just giving you my experience, like, when you go to court and when there is only one female judge in that high court, and she's sitting on the bench with a male judge, the lawyers are all addressing the male judge.
Yes.
She has something sensible to say. She wants him to stop looking at him and to look at her.
Yeah.
So to be heard, she raises her voice and everybody says, has she gone cracked? That guy, that male guy is speaking so,
Yeah.
what you believe a judge should speak like.
Yeah.
That's when you realize, you want to be heard. Your audience
Guys,
doesn't.
may I ask you to please switch off mics, and if they're on, not to speak, because when others are speaking and you are speaking at the same time, there's disturbance. Please keep your mics off unless you're speaking, please. Thank you. Yeah. Sorry, Meg.
So this is all I wanted to say.
No,
you're
sometimes absolutely right.
It's your audience who treats you like, like you don't matter.
No, they're treating you. It's simple. They're treating you like a woman.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
But I want to address this, Mick. They are treating you like a woman because you and I and all women, we have enabled this. We have enabled it. We have given the right to humanity to behave in this manner. And it's not going to go away by shrieking or by fighting. It's not going to go away. It's going to go away by you and I and each single woman first recognizing I am a person. Recognizing that her daughter is a person and treating herself and her daughter like a person. It's going to be a slow change. It might take maybe a whole generation or more. But if you and I start, our energies of the cosmic womb, we are medicine women of consciousness. Can you imagine what we can achieve? You will not need to shriek. It will happen as a matter of course, because we will live as we are. We will live as our authentic self and not live as our roles and our gender.
Have to recapture the space.
Exactly. No, I don't say recapture, Mick. We have to rebirth into that space again.
Thank you.
What about miscarriage or abortion? I'm sorry, I don't understand the question. So what about it? What do you want to know, Kavita?
Hi, Elle. It was a wonderful session. Just wanted to ask if like I myself have undergone a miscarriage, like I was pregnant and I think within 1.5 to 2 months, because of certain traveling or
Yeah.
the stress or whatever, I had a miscarriage. So obviously I did have a soul contract with the child with which was in my womb for some time. So I mean, like, why did that kind of a thing happen? Or like, why an abortion, or like, some ladies go in for an abortion, whereas the, like, the kid is already, or the fetus is already connected to you with the soul contract. So just wanted to know, like, why do we go through this thing?
Okay, so here, Kavita, again, the soul contracts can be so numerous, Kavita, that it is impossible for me to tell you in a general answer, right? So when these things happen and I study the energy of each of the clients, then each answer is a different answer. So that I can't go through. But what I can say is this, which is kind of common to all who go through miscarriages or abortions. Even though a miscarriage is not a willful, conscious decision to abort the child, when there is a miscarriage and we are doing the womb healing, the womb trauma, Kavita, the greatest womb trauma energy comes up as shame and guilt. That I did something wrong. My body could not hold the child. I traveled. I did not take care. And that is the guilt and shame that's attached. Of course, when it is an abortion, the guilt and shame is huge, is huge. So you have to understand your contract. And when you don't understand the contract, you have to say, fine, I don't know what the contract is, right? You don't have to keep running for a session every time you have a question. Sometimes you just have to say, okay, I know there is a soul contract. I don't know what that soul contract is, but I'm going to make my peace with that, right? When it is time for me to know, if it is time for me to know, it will reveal itself to me. But my awareness of the soul contract should help me to liberate myself from shame and guilt.
Thank you so much, El.
I am adopted myself, and I'd like to know one thing. I've always felt that I don't belong. Is this because I'm adopted? And if so, I really need to release my mother, because as far as gratitude is concerned, I'm very grateful to my biological mother. Then why do I still feel this way? Of course, you feel this way. And this does not have anything to do with the fact that it does not undermine the fact that you love your adopted mother. It does not take away from the fact that you are grateful to your adopted mother. But you chose this. You chose this as a soul contract with your mother. You are already saying this, Leena, that you have just not felt like you belong. Now, this is where you're making a slight bit of an error, which a large number of people make. You believe that because you've been adopted, you are feeling this lack of belonging. The truth is exactly the reverse, Leena. It's because you carry this lack of belonging in your womb. You've carried it in your energy space. You chose this experience to go through so that you can understand that, yes, I was born out of one mother, I'm adopted by another, but I don't belong to any of them. I belong to me. And because you don't know that you belong to me, incarnation after incarnation, you felt that you don't belong. And so this time you told your biological mother, I need you to play this role in my life. Please be my soul contract for this. Did you get that?
My question again, El.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you said we can release the mother from the soul contract by
Yes.
understanding if she's alive, then you can have a talk
Yeah.
with her and
Yeah.
tell her, actually tell her. can this same thing be done with other soul contracts, or is it only with the mother you can do?
Any soul contract.
But you have to talk to that person.
No, you don't need to talk to them. When I say release them, they are there. I mean, do it as a process for yourself.
Exercise. All right. Okay.
I spoke to my mother because, you know, Rukshana, I'm the kind of person, if I have an issue and if I talk to you, for me, the circle closes. But that's my personality.
Yeah, I'm exactly like that.
But you know, Rukshana, I've come to the realization that just because that helps me, it doesn't mean that the other person wants to have that talk.
Yes, that's also true.
So I sit, put the person's energies. Actually, I put an empty chair. I call it the empty chair exercise. And then I actually talk aloud.
Okay, got it. I got it.
Absolutely. I do what completes it, and that person doesn't need to.
I got it. Thank you so much. God bless.
My daughter claims to be neuter gender, which I don't understand. You know, this is an interesting one. I have seen in the last maybe decade, the younger children who are today early teens, they are refusing to be typecast as male or female. They are refusing. They don't want to be called he or she. If you have to refer to them, you have to refer to them as they. I love this shift. You know, when the words we speak change, our beliefs will change. This is the young master energy coming in to help us change. And they are saying, stop calling us, we are genderless. Right? That doesn't mean they are sexless. It doesn't automatically mean that they are gay. All rubbish. It just means they refuse to be typecast into a gender role. Thank you for these children. Why must you call a woman she or a man he? They're saying, what is the reason? Change that. Because as soon as you say she, there is a whole lot of conditioned responses going on in your subconscious, which you do not even know. As soon as you say he, there's a whole lot. You know, like people will say, oh, he's just a boy, yaar. So he called this girl a bitch. What is the big deal? He's just a boy. Boys will be boys. So you see, he and she have a lot of conditioned responses in our brains. These children are saying, we are not going to live by your conditioned responses. You call us they. And I love that. JadeFire is pushing us to go from the I to the we. And that's what they're saying. We are the collective. Call us they. They doesn't want to wear a dress. They doesn't want to become a doctor. Do you know who I'm talking about? They doesn't want to wear a pair of shoes. Do you know who I'm talking about? You don't know male or female. Fabulous. Now you cannot judge. For all you know, I was talking about they who doesn't want to wear a dress as the boy who doesn't want to wear a dress, not the girl. But you instantly assumed I was talking of a girl because I said the word dress. Isn't that true? When we continually use the word they, slowly but surely, our brain will stop passing the judgments. Our conditioning will improve. Say thank you to your daughter who refuses to be called male or female.
Because we are talking on this, I wanted to reiterate to this person who has this fabulous daughter, sun, day energy. I've been working for the last 3 years with like she says, I am not a boy or a girl. She is sexually, biologically a girl, but there is nothing in the 3 years that I have worked from her where she was in complete trauma, So were her parents, to today where she is, where they are still not completely there, but there is so much of understanding in them.
Yeah.
This girl, when she first came to me, she had to make a point to the world because she felt, I am not of earth. She actually,
Yeah.
the first statement she said is, I don't know if you will understand, but I am alien to
Yeah.
this planet.
Mm.
This was her opening statement
Yeah.
to me, which I'll never forget.
Yeah.
And she came with one side of her hair completely shaven. The other side had this long tresses, which were like 3, 4 colored. Okay. She was wearing an outfit which I couldn't understand was a pant over a dress or a dress over a whatever. It's some vague kind of
Yeah.
thing. But she didn't walk, she strode.
Mm.
She strode, and her whole attitude was like, if you have the balls, take my challenge.
Mm. Mm.
And
Yeah.
it was that force that she was, that I decided I'm going to do everything in my power to make her feel whole and not tormented.
Yeah.
And over the many, many, many sessions that we've had over 3 years, she can look in a crystal. She has not studied or she's not done anything. Okay. She can look in a crystal and she can just like read things, and I know I am in
Yeah.
shock.
Yeah.
Okay. I always tell her, please don't call me ma'am, you are my master. It's
Yeah.
like that. Okay.
Yeah.
So understand, these are new energies coming on
Yeah.
earth and they are here to awaken us.
Yes.
We
Yes.
cannot deny these energies.
Yeah.
And our denial of them is our denial of our own
Of
growth.
us, exactly. Of ourselves.
That is what
Absolutely.
we need to understand.
Yeah. Absolutely, Sherry. Thank you for that sharing. Yes. Anyone? We can take one more person if you want, and then we'll call it a night. Okay. No one. Thank you very much for this. I will inform everyone about the 11-11 program. I want to make things very clear to you and to anyone you might share this information with. The day you cannot pay that 500 rupees, you do not attend. You attend. Energy is exchanged in an infinite number of different ways. The 500 rupees just becomes the easiest modality. The day you cannot, you don't have to. I will never ask who is paying and who is not paying. You will just be given my bank details. But anyone who wants to attend will just have to say, may I have the link? And I will give you the link. I will not ask, and I don't want you to tell me whether you're paying or not paying. This is about our energy collective for humanity. Please do not let 500 rupees come in the way of that. The energy you are exchanging is worth more than that. Thank you very, very much. Thank you all.
Thank you.